against the Rams. All right, Lloyd Vance joins us as he does every Tuesday, 5:15 with Vance's View as we recap everything that went on. Divisional matchups, we start to look ahead to conference championships. Lloyd, how are you, my friend?
Doing great, Q. It's very exciting. I mean, I heard you doing your happy dance there.
I was doing my little happy dance, to be quite honest with you, you know. I was going back and forth, and we were a little giddy. I guess your biggest takeaway from each game, like if there's a moment, if there's something you said going into the offseason, man, I don't know if this guy's cut out or this head coach or this is what they need to work on. Start with Tennessee and Cincinnati. Biggest takeaway from that game.
Sure. When I look at this, the Bengals have to fix their offensive line. I know they won the game, but you cannot have Joe Burrow getting sacked 9 times. And, you know, they just do have a lot of offensive weapons, though, with Jamar Chase, and they can put up points, but they got to protect their quarterback. When I look at Tennessee, they just didn't have much other than Henry. They handed the ball off to him 20 times, and he didn't do much, about 60 yards or so. But Tannehill is not the answer there. He looked like the same guy we saw in Miami. He just looked tentative and made some mistakes in that game.
All right, and then you look at the 49ers and the Packers game. I mean, I guess the question is going to be what's going to go on with Aaron Rodgers going forward, but I give the 49ers a ton of credit. Defensively, and they made adjustments when they had in the second half.
Yeah, key you have to start with, they just hung around. And this is a team that's built defensively. They run the football, and they win games ugly, and that's what they did here. You know, Deebo Samuel had the big run at the end to close the game out. And you know, Robbie Gould, he made some big hits in this game. Let's not forget it was snowing out there, and he was able to drive that ball through. So, you know, good, solid win for them. Obviously, everybody, let's talk about Aaron Rodgers is 0-4 versus San Francisco in the playoffs, but, you know, you can't blame it on him. Obviously, the special teams let down Green Bay in this game.
But see, let me just I actually blame Aaron Rodgers. The special teams stunk. No one's disputing that. But come on, man. You have the number one, you got home field advantage again. You're the top seed. You got your weapons that you finally asked for. And then you only scored 10 points at home. And as you mentioned, once again, you lose to the 49ers. And then to add insult to injury, it's another choke job as a whole at home in the playoffs. I mean, so I do think you have to blame Rodgers to some extent. I really do. I'm not going to sit here and say it's all special teams. He's the all-time great quarterback everyone always talks about, which he is, right? But yet you're at home. You got to score more than 10 points, man.
Yeah, and you know, I think Andy Reid saying, when it's grim, you be the Grim Reaper. And he's a guy that just did not step up in the big spot. And we saw later on, you know, Mahomes and Josh Allen do the exact opposite thing. So, you know, Aaron Rodgers, he seems like he's a great regular season quarterback.
Exactly.
A guy that's going to win these 13 games, Hall of Fame guy. But, you know, you want to win a championship, he's not your guy. Yes, 2010 he brought one home, but it's been ugly ever since.
Yeah, listen, and people will sit there and say, oh, my God, this guy's crazy right now, saying he's not that guy. But to some extent, when has he really won a big game? I mean, when they were 15-1 and they were defending Super Bowl champs, they lost to the Giants in the divisional round.
Yes, and it's always something. They just can't get it done. And I think he just relies a lot on Devontae Adams in watching this game. He just targeted him over and over again, I think about 14 times. Yes, he had about 9 catches, but you take Adams out of the mix, and there's really not a lot left for the Packers. So it will be interesting to see how this offseason goes. Don't forget, Rodgers is under contract for next season.
Yeah. All right, and then we'll get to the Sean Payton in a second, and then you got the other 2 games. Obviously, the Bucs and the Rams. I mean, there's no way in God's green earth you give up a big play late like that if you're Tampa Bay. I mean, just horrible defensive effort, and then the wildness that was Buffalo and Kansas City. Let's start with Tampa Bay and the Rams. First, last play. I know you're a defensive-minded guy, so to speak. I mean, what's your thoughts on that all-out blitz there, knowing that you basically don't have the coverage that you need, and then Coop gets behind the secondary there. Big play for Stafford late in that game.
Yeah, that was a huge play for them. And Todd Bowles, as you said, goes 0 blitz, so that means there's nobody in the back end covering it. And, you know, they exploited it. And it was confounding to me why they did in the first place, too, because Matt Gay, you know, the kicker for the Rams, he does not have that huge leg. And you know, you keep him on the outside from 50 yards plus, he's probably not making it or not even trying to kick. So, you know, to allow Cooper Kupp to get free and make that big play, it it just showed that Tampa Bay is kind of resting on their laurels. Yes, they were the champions, but they were very beat up in this game and, just seemed to miss. So it seems like it's the Rams' time, and Tampa Bay has to retool.
What do you think is going to happen with Tom Brady? Do you think he's really contemplating retirement? And if that's the case, I mean, have we seen the last of number 12?
Yeah, he's 44 years old, so and we've been saying, he's got to hang it up sometime, but he's very, very ego-driven. We know this, and losing like that's going to leave a bad taste in his mouth. I just don't know if he walks away from here. It may be a long off season where him and Halls, but I think eventually he will come back and try at least one more season. He always said he would play until he's 45 years old.
And then you had Buffalo and Kansas City, which was a game for the ages, back and forth. I mean, it was like a heavyweight title fight, right? I knock you down, you get up. You knock me down, I get up. Back and forth. Championship rounds is where you kind of separate the greatness of the two. And then, the gunslinger eventually had that ball back with 13 seconds. I've asked this question for a couple days now. Do you squib? And then, defensively, how do you allow Kelsey to get that free release with 13 seconds to go?
Yeah, if I was the Bills there, I definitely would try to take as much time off the clock as possible. There's always that Pat Mahomes magic out there. And yes, you would think 13 seconds is not enough time, but Hill hits him for the big play for 19 yards, and then they also hit Kelsey down the seam that you talked about. So they had their opportunities, but it was just incredible lead changes back and forth. They had 3 go-ahead touchdowns in the last 2 minutes. So that just shows you how these two guys were competing against each other. And, they had a lot of heart and wanted the will to win. You just hated to see one of those teams lose, but, Big Red and Pat Mahomes got it done.
Real quick, hang tight, Lloyd, just for you baseball nuts out there. MLB Hall of Fame ballot. The tracker right now, Bonds, Ortiz, Clemens, still need quite a few more votes to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. I'll keep you guys updated on what's transpiring with that. Steve Gardner later in the week. All right, so overtime, right? I hate to kind of bang this drum, but, again, it seems to be the hot topic. Do you have a problem with the flip of the coin? Do you have a problem with the overtime rules? Should they be changed?
Well, Q, I'm okay with them now. I didn't like when it was field goal and they could win a game like it was so many years ago. But, it just seems like, okay, your defense should stop the team at a certain point. And, Kansas City just hit throw after throw. Pat Mahomes was 9 for 9 at the end of the game and into overtime. So it's a tough situation, and there's no right answer. But to me, I think overtime is defined the way it is.
All right, let's get to Sean Payton. I don't think it's as shocking as people are making it out to be, whether it's a little sabbatical or not. He had a great run with the New Orleans Saints, but I actually highlight it for their greatness, right, the run that he's had with 241 wins, 9-8 in the playoffs, and, of course, Super Bowl win over the Colts with Drew Brees, pardon me. They've had some really bad losses in the playoffs, man. I mean, they've had some snake-bitten losses. I don't know if that overshadows what he's meant for that franchise or the whole bounty gate, but I don't see Sean Payton being out of football too long.
Yeah, Q, I agree with you. I think, his resume is building towards a Hall of Fame. Yes, he has a Super Bowl. He probably needs to get about 200 wins underneath his belt. But as young as he is, I think he will get another opportunity out there. Maybe he'll recharge his batteries. He has, I think, 2 years left on his contract with the Saints, so, maybe he sits out for a little bit. But I think he'll get the itch to come back and coach. And we've always talked about this. He has a home in Dallas, and we know Jerry Jones has always valued him. So always keep an eye on the Dallas Cowboys when it comes to Sean Payton.
All right, let's just kind of sneak peek in the conference championships. And listen, I know what the line's saying right now. I'm curious to see if it moves at all for these two games respectively. But right now, as it stands, Chiefs are laying 7. Total is 54. 49ers are a 3.5-point dog. Total is 46.5. I think the Chiefs' number is exactly where it should be. I'm curious to see if it's bet down a little bit, a little more money on Cincinnati. Who knows? But what say you in that one?
Yeah, Q, I was surprised to see that line so high because let's not forget these two teams played back in Week 17. And the Bengals, I know the game was Cincinnati. They ran up and down the field on them, particularly Jamar Chase, 266 yards in that game, a rookie record. So it was a 34-31 win for the Bengals. But when I look at the aspects of this game going into it, I still think that the Chiefs can possibly cover that number. And we talked about the pressure that Burrow was under 9 sacks. I think that Chris Jones and the rest of the guys on that defensive line will get some heat on him, and you'll see Burrow make some mistakes. So the Bengals are a good young team, and they're on the come up, but I just think it's a little early for them, kind of like the Bills in last year's AFC Championship game. So I will go with the Chiefs in this one to cover, and also I'll look at the over, of course.
Yeah, good point from the last time they played. I thought the game was going to open at least 4.5, but so be it. Kansas City right now sitting as a touch favorite. And then you have the 49ers and Rams. Now, I think if you're a Rams backer, you'd be more confident if the line moved to 3. Instead, you get 3 in the hook at home, which is always a little dicey proposition. Listen, the 49ers, I had them going in Dallas, beating them outright. I had them going in the Green Bay, beating them outright. I want to see if there's movement late on this line, come maybe 6 o'clock Sunday. I don't know if my 9 lives has run out with Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, I just don't know what Jimmy – well, I have an idea what Jimmy's going to show up, but it kind of scares me in this one. And then you have the Rams, and quietly too, right? Quietly, Beckham is starting to heat up for that offense.
He has, and you know, he had 69 yards in the last game, and he's just an explosive. He's getting open. We talked about Cooper Kupp and the way he's able to just find gaps in the coverage, and it's going to be a fun one to watch. Now, we know that Shanahan has beat McVay and that team 6 straight times, including in Week 10 this week, which was the season, which was a blowout 31-10. And then in Week 18, they had to come back win 27-24 in overtime. So, you know, this is a game I kind of been back and forth on, and we know it's going to come down to the quarterback play. Matthew Stafford is a guy who's no risk it, no biscuit. He's a guy who's going to drive it down the football field, but he's going to make mistakes here and there. He had 17 interceptions, so watch the pressure on him. I'm hearing Whitworth's going to play at left tackle. His knee injury is kind of coming along, so he's going to probably be able to play in this game. You talk about Jimmy G. You just hold your breath over and over with him and on his out patterns. He's a lot like Carson Wentz. You just wonder when the shoe's going to drop on him. He's going to make a mistake. So in this one, it's a field goal game. I just think that the Rams just have a little bit more. I don't think Akers is going to make those fumbling mistakes that he did in the divisional round. So I think the Rams win this one. It may be a push because I think Matt Gay's going to kick a game winner in this one.
Oh, interesting. How about the Giants, with Schoen, the GM, and now there's talk that they might go after Dable in Buffalo, and if they do that, I would love for them to bring over Dorsey. I mean, ultimately, who do you think is going to be the Giants' head coach?
Yeah, Joe Schoen coming over from the Bills. He did a great job learning under Brandon Beane. Him and McDermott came over from Carolina together, so he's a guy that's learned under their wings, and I do think that it's maybe a former Bills guy. Brian Dable is a guy they're really looking at. Leslie Frazier as well. You know, they're definitely going to go offensive mind because I think they're going to bring back Daniel Jones. They're going to try to fix him. So, you know, if it's Brian Dable, maybe they can try to make Jones into a lesser version of Josh Allen.
Yeah, you know, the thing is, though, and you tell me what you think about this. Ultimately, you have to. You just have to have the players. I don't care who you bring in as a GM. I don't care who you bring in as a head coach. At the end of the day, if you don't have the players, you're not going to be a successful franchise. You got to draft well. I mean, basically, that's my point. When you look at the NFC East right now, Giants, Washington, the Eagles, and, of course, Dallas, and you look at these teams that are left standing in the playoffs, I mean, I think these teams in the East are really far off. I really do when you're comparing them to those teams that are left.
Yeah, they all have a lot of holes, and we saw that in the playoffs with the Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys. And you know, every other team, their quarterback seasons arise to occasion, so they need to first fix the quarterback position, probably on almost all those teams in NFC East. And yeah, Dak got that big contract, but is he ever going to live up to it? So I agree with you that division is one of the lower ones in the NFL, and we see this over and over again when the champion doesn't have a lot of wins in that division.
All right, before I let you get out of here, game ball in the divisional matchups.
Yeah, the game ball, I had to give it to Patrick Mahomes. I mean, I almost gave it to Josh Allen because that battle was one for the ages. But, you know, 33 or 44, 378 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. And the big thing was he ran for a career-high 69 yards, moving the chains over and over again. Willed his team to victory. He gets the game ball.
I'm going to say Tannehill was the lackey.
You know me very well.
Oh.
You know, he just, I mean, when you throw your first interception on your first pass of the game, then you come out after halftime, throw an interception right there, and then the game ends on an interception by you too. You just have to give it to this guy. And you have to feel for Tennessee. They were the number one seed, and everyone thought that they were a fraud, and he's a guy that just could not elevate his team, so he definitely gets my lackey.
He is Lloyd Vance, at Lloyd Vance, NFL writer, researcher, historian, PFWA award winner as well, and, of course, contributing right here on AM 1490 Sports Betting Radio, Tuesday edition of Back Your Play. All right, my friend, I always appreciate you. Enjoy conference championships. I can't believe we only have 3 more games left. I don't count the Pro Bowl, but we have 3 more games left.
Yeah, it's going to be over before we know it, but then we'll start talking about the Senior Bowl and everything else.
That's true. All right, pal. Enjoy it. We'll talk on Tuesday.
All right. Thanks for having me on.
All right, you got it. My guy, Lloyd Vance, quick timeout, 5:37.